The Netflix series Adolescence has absolutely taken the world by storm. It's important, and we're going to discuss it today. Welcome to the Happy Families podcast, real parenting solutions every day on Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson, and we sat down, didn't really want to watch this show. I think, would that be a fair way to say it?
100%.
We knew it was going to be heavy. We knew it was going to be serious, and we wanted something light. But nevertheless, on our wedding anniversary,
it was not light.
We sat down and we watched 2 episodes, and then the next day we finished it off, and we need to talk about Adolescence.
Police! Get down on the floor! What's going on?
Making a big mistake. He's only a kid.
Dad, I haven't done anything!
Here's the plotline. Here's the synopsis. Adolescence opens with a jolt. You and I looked at each other, couldn't believe what was going on. Police officers shatter the dawn and the front door of a suburban home to arrest a 13-year-old boy, Jamie Miller, for the murder of Katie Leonard, a schoolmate just a couple of years older than him. This is not a whodunit. We know the perpetrator from the beginning. He pleads and pleads and pleads that he's innocent. You want to believe him, don't you? You want to believe this is a terrible mistake. But instead of being a murder mystery, the rest of the series is very much about confronting, I think, a far more unsettling question, and that is why? Why did this happen? It's shattering. It's just devastating. And as soon as all of this occurred, we looked at each other and said something along the lines of, what is going on here? Like, what does the system do this for? Why are we breaking down doors of 13-year-old boys? What is going on here? It was tragic from the outset.
That's it, though, mate. Accused. He hasn't been found guilty. He's been accused. Can you not do anything about this? I'm sorry. They're entitled to.
There's a lot of talk at the moment about people pathologizing their difficult events in life and calling it trauma.
Everything's traumatic, yeah.
But when I watch this experience unfold from the outset for the parents, for his sister, for him, in spite of his guilt, it is traumatic. The system just creates so much trauma.
So let's talk about a couple of things that we just need to get clear at the outset. First thing, nothing should diminish the shattering reality that Katie's life was violently taken. It's devastating. It's how do you find words? And I know words are really important. I've written about this before, but how do you find words to describe the landscape of grief that her family now has to navigate? I mean,
But it's not just her family. There's a whole community that is now having to cope, deal with, confront the reality that she's not there.
Definitely. Maybe I can put it this way. They're the primary casualties of this catastrophe.
But then there's also his parents.
That's right. So
this is there's just not one victim in this.
And the show makes that really clear. I don't want to take away from the fact that a young girl's life was taken. That's the primary concern here. But the show then shifts to it and says, why? And then you see the ripple effect. You see the ramifications in the lives of the parents, in the lives of the big sister, the utter devastation that occurs in everyone's life who is touched by this awful tragedy.
But I do sometimes think we should have stopped it. Seen it and stopped it.
We can't think like that. Remember? That's what she said. It's not our fault. We can't blame ourselves.
But we made them.
So I'm writing my book about raising boys. In fact, I'm in the process of finishing the conclusion. This TV show made me have to rewrite a whole lot of stuff in my book, which I was so grateful for. And here's our challenge with Jamie. We've got this kid who's been raised in a home with loving parents. Were they perfect? Not even close. But they are loving parents, and they've done their best to give him a good education. He's a smart kid, but he has been transformed, I would say methodically, by a toxic ecosystem that most parents fail to comprehend. And I think that's why the show has dropped like a bomb across our entire Western society, because parents simply aren't aware of what's going on.
80% of women are attracted to 20% of men. You must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way.
Do you think, though, that parents are watching this and just seeing it as a really far-fetched storyline that would never occur to them? Like, does this hit home that this is actually someone's reality and it could be mine if I don't take precautions to pre-arm my child and my family in general? Do you really think that this is seeping in and the message is getting out to people that it takes a village, an entire village? It's not just about mum and dad doing their job. It's about the school system doing their job. It's about law enforcement doing their job. Like, it's about the community at large taking responsibility for the system that we are either part of creating or part of indulging.
Okay, so let me respond to the first part of your question, and that is, do you think that it's something that parents are really going to absorb because there's a murder that's taken place? Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's just have a look at what's happening daily in the lives of our children. A couple of weeks ago on my Facebook page, we had a week of non-stop conversation and content around the misogynistic, horrendous threats that primarily boys are making towards girls in schools. Parents, unfortunately, don't get it. And our kids hide it from us completely and in every way. So this has real world implications for every single family. The likelihood that anyone who's listening to this right now is going to have a son who's going to go and commit this kind of heinous and treacherous crime, very, very, very unlikely. But the likelihood that anyone who's listening to this right now is going to have a child who will either be a perpetrator or a victim of some kind of misogynistic or abusive behavior, almost guaranteed. And so the conversation really, this is a podcast with real parenting solutions. The conversation has to be brought back to what's going on with the system. Jamie wasn't born violent in his veins. No. Jamie and countless boys like him are actually, I'm going to turn the perpetrator into a victim for a moment because he is. Now, he's not a victim like the murder victim. He's not a victim like the girls who are on the receiving end of all of these vile messages, but he is a victim of a toxic ecosystem that is not allowing him to build an identity and navigate puberty in a healthy and safe way. The system feeds on our children's vulnerability with predatory efficiency. It is exquisitely built by the best brains in the world for one reason and one reason only: addiction. Pull people in regardless of the cost.
Well, it's not addiction, it's money, right?
Well, addiction gives the money. That's right. The system's designed. The incentives are all, I get money the more addicted you are to Discord or to Instagram or to whatever. And this is the other thing. It doesn't happen in the dark corners of the dark web.
Yeah.
It's happening in full view of everybody on the biggest platform on the planet. It's happening on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I've kind of went on a bit of a tangent because of your question, but I'm writing a book about it. My book, in the first part, I can't wait for this book to come out. It's going to be out in about a year now, because there's a lot to go into the publishing of the book. But I unpack this thing called the boy code. I talk about the man box, and I have a look at research that investigates something called precarious masculinity. These are the main feeders into this toxic ecosystem that is amplified and absolutely blown up by the social media landscape. So here we've got this thing called the incel community. I don't know if you were familiar with incels previously. Incel means being involuntarily celibate. And I just can't get past the fact that this kid is 13 years old and he's being mocked by his peers because he's celibate involuntarily. He's 13.
Yeah.
He's 13. He's supposed to be celibate. It's just astonishing.
Well, it's not even a word for a 13-year-old.
Oh, my goodness. It's just devastating. So, after the break, my take and what we can do. All right, Kylie, here's my take. Adolescence is not just television. It's a spotlight that illuminates a reality that I think most parents are unaware of or are unwilling or are reluctant to acknowledge. As parents, I think that we actually collude in our own ignorance. It's like we smear Vaseline across the lens of our perception when it comes to our children and their digital lives. And we just can't do that. We just cannot do it. Everyone bears responsibility. The tech companies are accumulating the greatest fortunes ever built in the history of the world while denying responsibility for the toxic spaces that they've created. You said it at the outset of the podcast. Our justice system is processing damaging children through machinery that's been designed for adults. Most educational institutions have failed to create cultures that nurture emotional intelligence or emotional safety. At school, this blew me away. And they did it so well. The brutal, casual lack of empathy that the school kids displayed at the death of one of their classmates. With one exception, her best friend, the kids were morbidly, enthusiastically fascinated by it, telling jokes about it, egging people on. Like, it was atrocious. This is why you and I mean, this has been a recurring theme on the podcast for a while now. This is why you and I keep on saying it's not good to have a whole bunch of kids hanging out with limited supervision over an extended period of time. Yeah, let kids spend time together, but they need good people in their lives monitoring and supervising and being a role model and showing them what to do. And the schools just have no control over these kids at all. It's terrible. This is a hard thing for me to say. I don't like throwing shade at parents, but parents are not doing the job when it comes to kids and screens. And in the case of the show, in general boundaries.
So this is going to take you off track a little bit, but my question is, how do parents safeguard their children against a monster they don't even understand? Like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I don't want to know what's out there. Like, I don't want to fill my life, my mind, my heart, my soul with the just depravity of content that's available. And yet, if I'm not across it, how do I talk to my children in ways that actually speaks to them? Because they just look at us. We're dummies, right?
That's right. And you see that in the show.
We don't have a clue what's going on.
The kids
wouldn't understand.
It's right in front of you and you can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making yourself look dumb, Dad.
Yeah, and I loved that scene specifically where the cop's son pulls him aside and goes, "You're missing it.
And
it's
you're looking like
right
a fool
in front of you and you're missing it because there is a whole nother language that you don't understand."
All right, so two things. First of all, the internet has spawned a whole lot of articles for parents who want to understand what all the emojis mean and what's really going on. So that's one thing. And it does pay to be across it. However, I'm going to argue that you don't need to be across everything. It's impossible to be across everything. And it's not necessarily productive. What's productive is having consistent interaction with and closeness with your children, knowing what's going on in their lives, talking to them about it. I mean, we've got to talk about the parenting in this show. First off, we discovered that Dad doesn't know how to relate to his son. His son loves drawing. His son loves a bunch of stuff that Dad doesn't understand. Dad wants him to play soccer or football, and he wants him to go get into boxing. And both of those things, Jamie just fails, and Dad is embarrassed by his son's ineptitude from a physicality point of view.
Well, he's not a man.
Notions of masculinity, absolutely. Yeah. So Jamie feels like a failure, but Dad's doing long hours. Mum and Dad are kind of removed, but Jamie's out walking the streets with his buddies. He's in his room on his devices, and there's a general lack of supervision. His parents are not in his lives. They love him deeply. They care for him in profound, appropriate ways, but they don't know how to be in his life in the ways that he needs them. And this is the critical thing. To answer your question, really, you don't have to be across it. You just have to be in your kids' lives to a point where they trust you. Trust means I believe you'll act in my best interests. And Jamie doesn't feel connected to his parents, doesn't feel like they're going to act in his best interests because they don't understand each other.
Should we do more, though?
I think it'd be good if we accepted that maybe we should have done. I think it'd be okay for us to think that.
That to me is the big message. There's more, but in the interest of time, that's where I want to sort of wrap that up. We need to be in our kids' lives. Let's move to a conclusion because we could talk for days about this. Here's what I wrote on Facebook, and I'll just get your take on it and some last thoughts. Here's the uncomfortable truth. At this moment, thousands of boys are hunched over screens absorbing the same poisonous narratives that transformed Jamie from a confused adolescent into a killer. They're being gradually radicalized while we attend to daily routines, often unaware of the transformation occurring under our roofs. Our boys are being robbed of the opportunity to develop into men unburdened by these destructive conceptions of masculinity. Their childhoods aren't gently transitioning. They're being compressed and corrupted by digital influences while adults remain largely oblivious to the damage. The technology companies won't intervene, educational systems are overwhelmed, the justice system is ill-equipped, and our boys continue to fall through widening cracks, emerging either broken by these pressures or breaking others in response. Adolescence offers no simple solutions. It simply holds up a mirror to our collective failure and asks what kind of society permits its children to be corrupted in digital spaces until they either implode or explode. Katie is dead, Jamie is shattered, and the machinery that created this tragedy continues to operate indifferent to the human cost. I reckon I wrote some good stuff, but let's not talk about my writing. At the end of the series, and as you reflect on it, what would you want parents to know?
For me, it's that you can't underestimate the influence that you can have in your child's life by taking the time to be with them, by taking the time to understand them, by taking the time to allow them the carefree childhood that they deserve.
I just wish our kids could have the childhood that we had before screens. Oh, my goodness. Adolescence, if you haven't watched it, buckle in. It's not going to be an easy show to view, but I would suggest the following. Allocate 4 hours, get some snacks, go to the bathroom, because once you stop, you're not going to want to turn it off. And once those credits roll at the end of the 4th episode, you will sit there for an extended period of time trying to comprehend what you've just seen. Such an important show. I really hope that they get a second series because it's a conversation starter. Hold those kids close. Thanks so much for listening to the Happy Families podcast, which is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. If you would like more information and more resources to make your family happier and to protect your kids, we've got them. They're at happyfamilies.com.au.